Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit. Hello. How you doing, everybody out there? Welcome to a Meeple Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, we're in it.
Yeah, that's right. We are live from the 1920s, as you can see behind us.
This is just
thanks
how
so
our
much for
crowd
joining us.
rolls.
Indeed.
We have a very old-fashioned type of nice casual mug drink there. Very old-fashioned crowd, a bunch of hipsters, really. Thank you, everybody. Hello, Luxley in the chat who says it's showtime, and it is. It is.
This
indeed.
is actually everyone here is just cosplaying for Arkham Horror. It's a mega RPG for Arkham Horror.
Yeah, so you're joining us as we read through a bunch of viewer comments from the past. It's actually been about 2 months since we've done one of these, so we're a little overdue.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things to discuss, but we're excited to get to all of it. And if you're watching live, then you're in the chat. You can feel free to throw some questions relating to what we're covering or anything you want, and we'll try to get to that too. And, isn't it cool that we're definitely in the same place right now?
Absolutely. Right? High five, Jonathan.
Oh, no, you went too far. You're way too.
There we go.
Okay, good enough. My hand is a lot bigger than yours. All right. Hoser's excited for an Arkham-inspired episode. Okay, here we go. Meeples assemble for a brand new Meeple Gallery. Let's get started. Big stories right up front. One of the biggest things from recent times was Fantasy Flight's full unveiling of the Descent Legends of the Dark, which I always have to second guess myself because it's not Legends in the Dark, because it was Journeys in the Dark and then Journeys in Middle-earth. They couldn't have just kept that through line.
No, that got to be because now you're talking about it, and eventually it'll stick in your head. So like Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Right, now you're talking about it. Anyway, we had thoughts about it. We had talked about it in our news video. Some people on board, some people not on board. Roman left a comment, said, Descent 2nd Edition is one of my favorite games of all time. One of my top 3 easy. I screamed like a lunatic when I saw the big box in the post-credit scene for the Fantasy Flight stream during Gen Con. Now, after seeing the presentation, I'm extremely disappointed and frustrated with the direction they took. It hit 0 of my anticipated improvements, miss on all fronts, looking for a different dungeon crawl to spend my money on. He doesn't elaborate on exactly what was the miss for him, but apparently it did not hit the right buttons for Roman. Let's see. Robin Censure. I don't know how to say your last name, but he's a friend of the channel. He posts in our chat. Says, I am really keen on Descent, but we have had only bad experiences with app-enabled games. So ultimately it'll all come down to reviews and playthrough. Plus shipping, that box won't be cheap. Can the box be any bigger? Is it a contest with Gloomhaven?
You gotta get that shelf space, man.
Yeah, and I think that's a recurring comment throughout on our Descent video was, as expected, some people just don't like app games. And if that's, obviously that will be a thing you won't like.
That is true. I tend to think they work pretty well, personally, at least with Mansions I thought it was all right. Part of that is just because also Old Descent, I found it very annoying at the 1v-all. I, though, do heavily agree with, you probably could have shrunk the box down, I'm guessing. But I'm also a guy who's happy to use tokens and standees versus miniatures.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see. I wonder how much content there is and also how much it adds to the experience to have that 3D terrain. But some people, like I said, very much in for this. William Egan said, love everything about the new version. So much better than Descent 2E in every possible way. And I say that as someone who really enjoyed Descent 2E, but had my share of frustrations with it, including its one versus many mode. So it's another person who's not into the one versus all thing. And a bunch of people pointed out, including Jim Souter here, something that I think when we did our news video was not public knowledge, which is the price of the Descent box. Did you know what it is by any chance? Did you see this? Because I know what it is.
No, because I thought we were talking about it.
I want.
I don't know.
You have a what? What would your ballpark guess?
My ballpark would be 100 because I'm pretty sure Mansions was 100.
All right. Well, up, my friend.
All right, 150,
Nope. Keep going.
250.
Okay, too far. That's too far. That's too far.
So 200.
It will retail for 174.95.
Oof.
And
That is.
yeah, Jim Souders said, I'd be interested to see what you think when you consider that price tag. It will be discounted, of course, on other stores, but it seems very expensive for what they said is Act 1 of 3, and it's not a Kickstarter. There's no stretch goals. There's no bonuses. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 100. I think that's a lot, but I think that would be fair because I thought Mansions, like with all the stuff it also had a lot of miniatures and stuff too, that bloated it a little bit. But I think content-wise was pretty fine, especially since I had all the old stuff. But 175, and let's
That's a
assume
lot.
let's assume the others are about the same price in content size.
I don't think. Well, I mean, I'm not assuming that. They said those were
Oh, you are?
expansions, not standalones. I'm assuming those will be like maybe $100. That's
All right, let's say they are 100.
somewhere in
That's
that range.
a total of $375, so nearly $400. So that's a game console, more or less. These campaigns better come with a lot of
I
story.
mean, it has
and
to be
branching.
when you consider Gloomhaven and its $150 asking price. I think is still what it is right now. Will it? I have never known any game, let alone a Fantasy Flight game, in terms of campaign missions to rival how much content is in that box. So for $25 more, yeah, that's the question. Will it be at least in the ballpark of Gloomhaven? I don't know.
Well, and then the thing about Gloomhaven is it doesn't remember. There's a lot in there, and the big thing I want to mention is none of it's from minis. They got a whole bunch of standees, but I think in terms of space in there, a lot of it is compact. Even I mean, I have the broken token thing, and technically the one expansion. It's still a lot of stuff, and I don't feel like it's wasted though. That's the thing I'm talking about. Like this has 3D terrain and stuff, so I'm like, part of me's like, how much of it though is just that 3D modeling, which is like, and look,
It remains
I
to
like
be
toys
seen.
and stuff, but it is a little worrisome.
Yeah.
Like at least the Arkham ones, like Mansions and stuff, actually just you can use them for the entire Arkham line. Like in fact, you can just change.
Hey, you could use a D&D, a Descent figure in an RPG campaign. I mean,
you could, but I think it's more likely like someone an idiot like me gets the entire Arkham Files line versus I don't know how much you go into other themes that are similar. But yeah, you could use it for D&D, and I think that's what you have to do. You have to if you're able to multi-purpose these minis, that's always significantly changes the price for you. But you also need to be playing D&D in a way where you use miniatures. Like, for example, we tend to do more online right now with Roll20 and stuff, so that wouldn't work as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see exactly. You know, I mean, that is a really high price tag. I'm still optimistic that I think the game will be good. I just hope that it has.
Yeah.
And that it's the length justifies it.
Yeah, I really think that's the issue. I'm not too worried on the system. I think it'll probably still be fun. I'm just hoping that it really has this great story that does feel like it takes the whole time. Like, I mean, Madar's in Act 1, but I mean, you've seen the book for that, like the storybook.
Yeah,
like,
right. They'll have to market it in a way too to be clear. Like, yeah, we're calling it Act 1, but it's a full experience, hopefully. In the chat, we've got Gregory Cook wants to know where Waldo is in our backdrop. If you can find him, you win a prize.
It's hard mode because it's all black and white.
Right, yeah, you got to find just the stripes. Shane Anigans said, I hate App Reliance, but I love Terranoth, so maybe this will pull some people in.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I will say the one thing that's always worrisome, but I feel like this is more my paranoia than I have any actual evidence on, is like if they ever like, we're not supporting this game anymore, and the app just disappears. But
yeah. I mean, we've had that discussion before, for sure. That's a whole other thing. Luxley asked if it's going to be Kickstarter. No, it's straight to retail. And Gregory also said he got it for $125 during the Halloween pre-order sale. So
that is probably much nicer, I think, of a price tag for that.
Yeah, 175. I mean, you got to think that probably most stores will discount it down to at least 150, is my guess. Like the
Yeah,
online
but
stores. I mean, that's still a lot,
still, yeah, no,
you
it's just
know,
that like when you look at Mansions, which is them as well, it's like I want to double check now. What
yeah.
is
But to
Mansions
me,
going
Mansions comes
price?
with
Give me a
what?
second.
Five scenarios are in that base box, five or six.
I think more like yeah, something like that.
Whereas, and maybe they're more replayable. I don't know. It's arguable. But like Lord of the Rings: Journeys to the Middle Earth, the initial campaign in that box is like 14 missions. So I do think
How much was
it's
that
not.
again?
It wasn't this much. That's in the $100 range, I think. 125
Right.
maybe for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I do think a campaign game could offer more value by nature of having a lot of missions and stuff.
No, and I think then that would be much more. By the way, Journeys and Mansions both 100,
Okay.
and I think both of those are very fairly priced at 100. I think you do get your content's worth, more or less.
James A in the chat says he's apprehensive about having to buy separate acts. Yeah, we'll see exactly how that works. And Gregory said a few online stores have it at the moment for around 137 to 140. So, you know, we'll see. I think it'll probably be worth it at least at that price, but we'll see. So that's all right. So Descent talk. I mean, if you have more Descent comments in the chat, post them. But we'll move on next to we're talking a lot about Avalon Hill,
Mm-hmm.
specifically HeroQuest, but also generally speaking, the fact that Hasbro is sort of wanted to like took over management of them to rework them perhaps for different things, and people had different ideas for what shape that might take.
Mm-hmm.
A couple people, including Ernest Reimer, pointed out that they once produced a massive number of war games. The cardboard counter and hex map type, probably the largest producer at the time, would be great to see some of those redone as board games with miniatures. Said, whatever they do, I hope they don't mess up any new versions of Axis and Allies and bring back these smaller, harder to get mini games. I saw a couple people mentioning there's like a Battle of the Bulge one.
Mm-hmm.
And he says Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal? If I'm saying that right. Paolo Wagner said, I believe they're going to revamp some of their titles. They have a lot of well known games that deserve a lift. Titles like Risk, Axis and Allies, and Diplomacy are classics that should be modernized, and if done right, can become really hot titles for the game community. I definitely agree with that one. For people who are watching who don't know Avalon Hill, they do now Betrayal at House on the Hill. They did Axis and Allies, Robo Rally, lots of other games.
I think part of the challenge, though, and we have to be wary of, is just because something's a classic, will it actually find a place in this modern day board game area? I'm like, how many? Like, I don't feel like I can think of many games right now that have recently come out that usually are the hot items we talk about at Gen Con or Essen that are like World War II.
Right.
Like if it's space battles or something or elves.
That's true.
But I think
But I
that's
think
the
you could find that niche. I think that, yeah,
is that Hasbro's thing though? Do they care about a niche?
yeah,
Or do
maybe
they want
not.
to like that's the it's
Maybe
like
not.
if it was anyone else, I'd probably be like, yeah, that could probably it's more because it's Hasbro. I'm like,
Mm.
will they be willing to be like fill the niche? Or will they like take the system and be like, make it cool though? We're gonna do Transformers because we have that license or something, or G.I. Joe.
Right, right. Well, let's see. The Ernie 4SS says, I could see Monopoly trying something new, like restoration games they did with Fireball Island. Maybe they'll throw Avalon Hill a Monopoly game. Or I could see Betrayal at Monopoly Hill, with everyone having different stats, and your speed is how far you can go, and you can attack people, and chance of community cards are weapons or ability ups. That's another way to go.
I mean, I definitely think that would be a fun area. I mean, I think I said I can't remember when we talked about this before, but I said, "Oh, it was your Kickstarter pick a while back, the
Uh-huh.
one where they add house rules in
Right,
decks."
right. Mod rules, it was
And
called.
I think, like we were talking about how weird fighting in Candyland would be, but I think Monopoly can be done. I'm not saying I can, but I think if you were to give the idea of Monopoly to like any of the well-known game designers, they can make an interesting game that still has the idea of like getting properties or something that also doesn't make people want to flip the table or hit their head for 4 hours.
Yeah, well, Patrick Brophy says get Rob Davio back and make Axis and Allies Legacy. So he's kind of got a different game, but same idea of reworking things into. I mean, that's a weird one because that's based on actual historical events.
That's
So,
very
so you could like
scary ground to go on.
reshape. Yeah, people would not like that. Remember how mad people got about the HBO show that was going to be about what if the Confederate side had won the Civil War?
Wasn't
Uh,
there already a show if Hitler won? Like the
I think,
castle?
yeah, Man in the High Castle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But so anyway, but I like the idea where that's headed. Brandon Palmer said more D&D board games, please. We don't see too many of those that are beloved.
Hey, we're getting a new Magic set that's entirely D&D.
True. Not what he not what he wants, but I guess it's something. Marcel the Archibald says, I think you got it right that Hasbro is seeking to up their game, no pun intended, by taking direct control of Avalon Hill. Of course, they do 1001 Monopoly reskins, but the recent IP success of Scooby-Doo and others at Funko Games and Prospero Hall is showing them how lucrative that midweight family category really is. On top of that, Wizards of the Coast has proven itself to just be lazy publishers with endless retreads with Magic and D&D brands. They never have proven to be very innovative. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
did it? No, it'll come out tomorrow. But we did a news video talking about Critical Role's new publishing arm, and the two of the biggest things in D&D Magic weren't made by them. Commander was not made by them. Critical Role was not made by them.
Right, right.
And I'm shaking a little bit because my elbow went on the table and it's the
Oh, you're just vibrating. You're drinking.
yes.
You got some coffee in there. And then Marcel has kind of some same ideas of maybe as you of what they might do, which he lists: Betrayal Transformers, Diplomacy Power Rangers, Robo Rally Trolls, and Axis and Allies and My Little Pony.
I mean, actually, Transformers Axis and Allies as a legacy would work because then you don't have to worry about the historical, and I think no one would be fine with messing around with that
You'd
history.
have to not call it Axis and Allies though. Like it could be a reskin, but I don't think you can have that title with
Autobots and Decepticons.
yeah, something like that. Something like that. Otherwise, it's like it feels a little gross. Do you know what I mean?
I guess, but I guess it's for me like it's not. It's fine when I'm thinking of like how like in Star Wars, which there's another one, where it's like they are space Nazis, you know.
Yeah, but it's at least a
Yeah,
fictional...
no, but I get you too.
Anyway,
and I think you could. It's not too hard. You
yeah.
can change like Axis and Allies is now falls under the war system or something, you know.
Right. And then Urnick Blaine had some more. I just wanted to read Betrayal at the Minions. Betrayal with Mr. Potato Head. Betrayal Fortnite. Betrayal Disney Princesses. I like Betrayal at the Minions. All right. Anyway, let's move on.
Betrayal at the Kardashians.
Let's move on to HeroQuest. And that was by far the biggest thing people were talking about since our last viewer comments. Tons of comments about the return of the official announcement of their new HeroQuest. And
that just ended.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was. I don't see what the final total was, but I'm sure it was millions.
I will find out while you're reading it.
But at least I was a little hard on this, where I think I was saying it's a little disappointing that they didn't. It doesn't seem like they're really doing anything new with it other than the art. That it's kind of just the same game. They didn't modernize it or anything like that. But a lot of people were fine with that. Did you find a total for us?
I did, and it is not over yet. There are 4 days left, and currently, with a target of 1 million, it is at 2.9 million.
It's actually less than I thought. I thought it would be even more, but still, obviously, pretty good.
Yeah.
Hello in the chat to Ajan. Everybody else right now, hi. There's a wave emoji, so I just say hi back. If you post a wave emoji, I will say hi back. Okay, so let's see what we got. So Mark Kemp emailed us. That's right. This isn't a comment. You can also email us, rollforcrit@gmail.com, or go to our website. There's a contact form. And he said, I really liked your video. I myself bought HeroQuest back in the day. Copyright on the box, Milton Bradley, 1990. He bought it at a family toy warehouse for around $50. So the new one's going to run you a bit more than that. I still have all the components, all 4 expansions. He said some of the later ones had female barbarian and female elf heroes you could play as. This is the original one.
Right, we talked about I think the Kickstarter exclusives were the gender swap.
The Hasbro Lab
Sorry,
exclusives.
Hasbro Lab exclusives were not mechanical, but just the swapping.
Right. And he also said another game you should check out is Dragon Strike, which I guess is another older game. So we'll take a look into that. Cool to hear about these old people who have. We're actually there because we weren't there. We didn't play these games. Well, we were there, but we were a little young.
Just a little bit too young to deal with small miniatures that could choke us.
A tiny bit, yeah. That's really the big thing that kept us away from it. As I said, a lot of people liked that it was the same. Chris Nelson said, "I'm glad they're keeping the game with the same, just with updated components. This is an easy buy for me." Xander Zarius said, "When the counter appeared, I feared the worst, but this is pretty much exactly what I hoped it could be. I don't love all the changes, but understand the need to refresh things. I don't mind the game hasn't been updated. This isn't meant to be Gloomhaven. It's a game to introduce kids to the fantasy genre and dungeon crawling. I'll be playing it with my own kid and nieces and nephews."
This is all great to hear. I'm happy, everyone, because this was a big title that's sort of coming back, and to see everyone mostly positive on it. It's nice to have everyone being mostly happy about something.
Yeah, Dave P said this game holds up. The game is perfect. I have played it as I have the old game. The rules don't need updates, but they definitely need more campaigns. The rules are a streamlined D&D for people with less time. Side note, he said it's already at 1.1 million at the time of this comic. But that was a month ago. Obviously, we just updated you on that. Yeah, but it's not everybody. One thing that was unanimous, though, a lot of people were not happy about, was the shipping situation.
Yeah.
So I think initially it was $135 shipping to Canada, but then it looks like it was updated. That was a mistake, or they found something, or people complained too much and they changed it, and it was then changed to only $30 to ship to Canada.
Yeah, Hasbro and Extension Wizards of the Coast really aren't. They don't have like deals, I guess, with post offices or something, because I've never heard anyone positive on their shipping.
Yeah, and someone, Caden Naden, said he's in Australia, he or she, looking forward to this, and bummed it's not available outside the U.S.
Yeah, is it only through this, or can you get it later? I can't remember. I thought it was like
it will. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be at retail. Not once this is all ready.
Right.
But I don't know how limited or how easy it will be to get, at least at first, because it is still a big game.
It is, but it's also, once again, this is Hasbro, so I'm going to be optimistic that they are planning to, especially when you've hit 3 million, equivocally, to be like, yeah, we could probably get some of these in the targets. I think that's going back to Avalon Hill too.
Can they for $150 though?
Gloomhaven.
Well, the starter set.
True, but
I don't know. I mean, there's a reason they did this to their Hasbro lab, is because they weren't sure if people would be willing to pay for it.
Right, but I think it's been proven that people will. Is my point.
Yeah, well, people online. I just feel like when you're at Target,
maybe they'll go exclusive to.
You're on a shelf. I think the people who are at Target want a game that costs $20. You know what I mean? Not a.
I don't know. I mean, I've been to some Targets where there's some really pricey stuff. I mean, it depends on your area, obviously.
Board games, though, I feel like that area at least hasn't. People don't know.
I guess I just feel we're slowly starting to, as we enter more mainstream. I think there's more of a general acceptance. It seems like of games becoming more popular. I mean,
yeah, of course.
And I would hope so, because I think. Yeah, it's a high price tag, but like one of the previous commenters said, it's a great entryway for you to feel that big game experience.
I think that's the problem for me, is this seems like such a strange. It seems like this really is people. I mean, all the positive comments I saw were people who had nostalgia for the original. It feels like this is marketed towards people who want to play this with their kids.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I think it's like too expensive for a parent to just get for their kid who doesn't know about it. But it's too old school to market to more modern gamers. It seems like it's just for people who like the original.
I think it's up to us, Jonathan. We'll put on some shades and a hoodie and grab our skateboards and show all the kids how cool and hip we are
I thought
with
I,
this new
I
game.
thought you were gonna say we go back in time or something. And
No, no, we don't have that technology. Jonathan, do you think we would be here where we are now in this current
yeah, this
timeline
is,
if we had a
believe it or not, this I went that around, and this is the
this is the
best.
best
It
timeline.
doesn't get better than this. AJ asked in the chat, it says never played HeroQuest. Is it worth it? Well, don't ask us because neither have we.
But
But according to some people, yes.
we'll give it a shot.
Is it worth it for $150? I don't know that. I don't know that either. Ernie is there in the chat, says 2.9 million. 4 days left. And Seventh Citadel, he says, which started the same day and ended half a month ago, was cheaper and made 3.8 million. He says that he thinks that HeroQuest should have been on Kickstarter. I think that, yeah, I mean, obviously they want to keep it in their own thing, but clearly Kickstarter is better because more people know about it. They probably would have made twice as much. You know?
It really, yeah. There's that, and I also don't know what the Kickstarter cut is.
I think it's like 10% or something like that. But even still, 10% of 4 million is better than just 3 million, right?
I think, yes, it would be.
Okay, we did that math.
Assuming there's no other weird things that they pay for because they're on Kickstarter instead. I don't know. Maybe it's because they'd also have to be willing to do international shipping, and they want to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean that's very probable.
Not saying that's a good reason.
Although on Kickstarter, can you block out certain regions? I don't know. James A asked if this style of show is a regular thing on this channel, and the answer is yes-ish. This the Q&A thing, we usually do this once every month or so. Otherwise, we just talk about board games and other formats. Feel free to check out our channel. Thanks for joining us. All right, a bunch
the audience is new though.
The audio, yeah, this is brand new. This technology and our high five technology is brand new.
That's why. There we go.
So some people, we've got Sons in 1592 left a comment who said, "Still have my original set. No desire to fork out $99 for this." Well, that was the basic version, right? 150 was the better one. But said, but you guys, meaning us, having no experience playing the original, miss the point with the notion of modern mechanics, which is just a matter of perception. Given that both board games and RPGs, his words, not mine, have steadily gotten worse mechanically in terms of playability, modernizing this game isn't attractive for most of the target audience, one suspects. Now, I mean, I just flat out just don't agree with this at all. I think games have gotten better on all fronts over the years, but maybe there's something to the older gamers. Maybe a lot of the people who like HeroQuest don't play as many modern games and actually would be scared off because they don't like what new games are like, and this was a conscious choice to keep them in.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're right, because a lot of them are there. You know, you don't need to work. Nostalgia should not be underestimated.
No,
but I guess it does sound a little bit sometimes when I feel like I hear some people like talk about how like, oh, original Mario or Zelda are the best ones. And I feel like some of them say that because it's like that was before there were like saves and like it was like, you know,
those first two Zelda and Mario are really good though.
But like I feel like when you get, I'm just choosing something where there's a very large gap in time.
Yeah, let's go with Citizen Kane, train coming at a screen. That classic movie, man sneezing. I don't think anyone has nostalgia for those anymore, though they're all dead at this point. But yeah, there's a lot to consider. A bunch of people also pointing out, they said that the big thing with HeroQuest was the fact that you could do a lot of homebrew stuff with it. And they said, like, oh, you don't need to modify the rules because if you don't like something, you just homebrew it. Which to me seems like a cop-out. It's like, well,
I don't think so. I mean,
you could make a good game that also you can homebrew. I feel like that's almost like apologizing for the game a little bit.
It depends, you know, like there are some times when I'm like, it's fun to add a small rule here and there.
Oh, sure. No, I think there's nothing wrong with doing it.
Right. I mean, it's hard to do without playing it. There's a difference, I think, like Magic Commander, there is a ban list, but really you can ban whatever your players don't want to play with. If no one wants to play with control spells, avoid that. Then there's something like, we've played some games where like, oh my God, this is so slow. And we house ruled it to like, we doubled our EXP gain or something. That doesn't mean that makes the game great because we can do that. It's
Right.
sort of
Right.
I guess it depends what you're adding. Like this, it's like I wanted to play as a snake warrior, so we homeroom some things. Versus, it's nearly impossible to hit, so we're gonna make it so on a 4, 5, or 6 is a hit or something.
You're just rewriting the game rules.
Yeah.
At a certain point. There's only so far you can go. Yeah, Shane Anigan's coined a name for this genre: exploistalgia. Exploistalgia. I'm trying to. He combined exploitation and nostalgia. Is what he did. All right. Anyway, moving on. So that's HeroQuest. I don't know when it's supposed to be delivered. If they had a date for that, but I would imagine not for a year at least, right? I mean, those usually these things take a long
Yeah,
time.
those usually take a
Did they even-
while.
But I don't know. It's Hasbro, so maybe they have better systems in place.
I mean,
Don't worry about it. We don't need to look it up right now. We'll move on. We'll move on. We talked about other games too, smaller games. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So first up, Telestones, King's Gambit, which is the new one, comes from the world of Runeterra and League of Legends. This is a small bluffing game for just 2 players. We reviewed it, and we liked it. We both liked it quite a bit. It's let's see, X Waffleicious said, I think you guys missed out on the ability to plug this game into a D&D campaign really easily. Since none of the imagery is intensely League of Legends related, it could make for more fun and immersive bar scenes or something.
Oh, you're spoiling Jonathan's things he's gonna do in the campaign for us.
I do love the idea. It's something I sort of played around with in our campaign in a weird way, but the idea of like in D&D playing a game in the game and then actually playing it in real life, like you go to a bar and you actually play Liar's Dice or something like that. I think that's very fun and immersive.
I mean, my character actually has a deck of cards and plays games, so he'd be up for it.
Yeah, that's like one of the standard things you can start with in 5e, I think. Greg Cook says fall 2021 for HeroQuest's estimated release, I guess.
Right, assuming if Fallout doesn't start.
Yeah, let alone that. So there's that. All right, and also Shane said it's a good box of components, HeroQuest, so he agrees with people saying it's worthwhile for homebrewing or designing their very own game, if you take it to that extreme. Or as we said before, like for Arkham, use those minis for something else. But back to more Telestones here. We didn't believe that this game was introduced for this game. It wasn't like a thing in League of Legends where you had
I
a
did
mini
not
game.
recall it. Yeah, but are we being corrected?
Not really. Just only on a technicality. Hurricane X31 says they did actually have a story about this game in a book prior to the reveal. However, they likely planned this ahead of time as the time gap between the two wasn't too large. So I would guess that was like a marketing thing. They had those both in the works at the same time.
That would make sense.
But it is, I guess, but technically speaking, it was a thing before the game came out. So that's interesting. Also, a fair number of people responding to the game saying they weren't interested in buying it partially because they felt like it was so simple. I saw a couple people say they could just get a bunch of playing cards and recreate Telestones and play it with those playing cards.
There are plenty of games we've done. In fact, we've done it before.
What do you think about that kind of thing with the game? I know I've had that criticism about a game that I actually love, but I did say that once about just one, which was that you almost don't even need to buy that game to play that game.
I mean, technically, Magic doesn't need that. You can just print them out.
That's true. That's true.
I think it really comes down to the components. If something has really bad components, then
yeah, Telestones. The thing is, it's much more satisfying, in my opinion, to play with those cool stones than with just playing cards. I think that is like almost half the fun, which maybe isn't that favorable to the game, depending on your point of view. But to me, I like that. I like that aspect of it.
And I guess like it's sometimes, I mean that. Like I could probably get playing cards to do it, and it won't feel the same. And like that's even like I said, I brought Magic because some cards are super expensive, so we allow proxies, but it's not the same thing to have a photocopy card. And not even the whole deck. If you only have like a couple in there, it feels better to have the actual cardboard in there.
Yeah.
And now I will say, I would love to see someone be like, like give me a second, like just do some woodworking, make their own classic wood pieces or something.
Hmm.
You know, like
Oh yeah,
their
like a
own their own.
homemade. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
but that's a different story. That's someone who's probably doing some who's used to crafting and stuff. You
I
know,
also feel like if you're trying to convince someone to play a game with you, the difference between look at this Telestones like cool box and art versus like, hey, look, I got 7 playing cards from a crappy deck I had that's like bent up. Like it's just not as appealing to have around.
I
But
mean, we could turn all RPGs into just clickers. That's pretty much what it is. You're just trying to click and getting points.
yeah, but why would we? More big games, some really big releases since we last had a chat, including Pendulum, and apparently, we usually don't watch too many other channels' reviews or anything like that for the most part of
Yeah,
games
I'm
we're
always
reviewing.
afraid I'm gonna like I'll say them what they said or something like so.
I
Don't
just don't
don't.
like them. I just think they're all bad.
Hey, don't be mean.
That's just me. That's just me. Um, but apparently, we're one of the few. Not a lot of people were more down on Pendulum than we were. We both liked it a good bit. And James Jacob Thompson said it's become almost cool to dislike this game. You guys highlighted a bunch of strengths that most reviewers seem to overlook, putting this back on my radar. And Lauder Winner said, "This is the best Pendulum review I have seen. I feel like you give this game a fair shake and explain the subtlety between how games typically use timers and how it's used in this game." So, yeah, I think like we've kind of said in the review, but I do think that game is just very weird.
No,
I thought the divide would be more on the consumer side. I felt like it was more of a reviewer's game because
you're so used to movies. With
yeah,
the audience score versus
right,
the
right.
critic score.
Because it is like it's very different and weird. And I think if you don't play a ton of games like all the time, you might not be as interested in that. Whereas for us, I feel like part of the enjoyment was just, oh, this is so new and fresh and interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that was the thing for us. It's like there are some things I found a little weird, and I think obviously I still think Scythe and Wingspan are probably still Stonemeyer's two pinnacle games. Like I don't think this took either of them off their pedestal. I,
Hmm.
I still had a blast and think it's going to be one of those things. At the very least, if you're like at Board Game Geek Con and there's a board game library, I really highly suggest you check the game out. Like I think
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're, you're not going to regret it. It's going to be one of those things. It's like I think it was a good thing to have in your experience repertoire.
Yeah, try it once, definitely. Shane in the chat said, if I were a publisher, I'd be worried about how easy it would be to pirate Telstones. I can see woodworkers, metalworkers, or Etsy creators selling their own versions.
Right. I mean, it's possible, but first of all, I'm sure Riot has some great lawyers on standby.
Oh, yeah.
Second, part of it is a collector's thing. Like, sure, you have your version of it, but this is the official Riot one. I mean, like with Transformer figures, there are plenty of third party, this is Super Truck Man or something. But Hasbro doesn't care because it's like it's free advertising. And like if you want the official Optimus Prime logo, the Autobot logo, you buy from us.
Yeah, yeah. James says, I own Pendulum. I feel it's a good game. The timer mechanism was never an issue with our group. So there you go.
We have not played Vivid Culture, but that's definitely high on my list from
Yes.
Frost.
Yes, Ernie mentioned shouts out Viticulture. Yes, it's one of our games of shame that we just never not that much shame. It was before, a little before. I think that really
I only go from like 0 to 100 on shame. I don't
we
have middle
weren't
ground.
as actually I don't know what year did Viticulture release? Do I have an excuse for why we haven't played it? 2016. Yeah, it was relatively early, I guess. And I mean, it was really like within the past 5 or 6 years we got into board games. So I think it's just one of the ones we just missed out on. We'll get back around to it someday. All right, Fort. That's another new game that we played from Leader Games, which is a competitive deck building game. You're all kids building forts. A lot of fun. Another one we reviewed and really liked. Steno Bro said, this is the orangest and one of the most thematically logical games I've ever seen. The made-up rules thing is cute and funny and makes sense for you as the player. The follow action depicts how kids like to copy each other's behaviors. I watched Rodney's How It's Played, and every mechanic made sense. So, yeah, that's something to be said. I guess, not a lot of games sometimes you have to make your brain work a different way to adapt the theme to the mechanics. But and for it, it does have some weirder stuff in it. I can say as someone who did how to play video for it, but I guess it's relatively intuitive, which is a good thing. Um, Ben Puckett said, "I bought this solely because of the art, theme, and company. I'm happy it's a good game too." Mostly Majestic said, "This was one of the out of nowhere games that I was absolutely excited for. I watched one video, then pre-ordered, and it arrived that week. Played twice, and I was in love. A great little game with so much inside.
Oh, I heard and wasn't love, not wasn't. I was like,
Was in
oh,
love. If you think you will like it, you're probably going to love it." The love keeps pouring in, and then Super Mega Vega said, "This theme makes me smile. I just want to go help my daughters build a fort. I want to pick this game up mostly because of the theme." I mean, it goes to show you, like we said, this was a reskin of the same design, but it was a much less cartoonish, appealing theme. And I see so many
oh, you
people
mean the old
saying
one?
the original game, yeah, SPQF it was called, I believe, and so many people just from the colors and the art. I mean, that is a huge factor. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it stood out more. I mean, like the kid theme is so much fun and it's almost like nostalgic, but not in the same way of like, do you remember this game you played as a kid? It's just like that fun of just like you're just running around the neighborhood and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
It really was a really nice and also the perfect size too. You know, it wasn't another one of these big games. It was like what the box was this big or something?
yeah, something around that size, something around that size. Yeah, I want to play that more. I want to play that game more.
I want to play everything.
I know it's like so
We
hard.
need the time machine that like we're like 1 minute passes outside here and we get like 2 days.
The hyperbolic time chamber.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if it's a machine. It's more like a
A pocket
reality.
dimension.
Yeah, pocket dimension. Robin is in the chat, showing up a little bit late thanks to YouTube notifications. He says, but pumped about Descent and received the second edition today to try it. I mean, I don't know if that's a great decision or a terrible decision. You bought the last version right before the new one was after the new one was announced, but they are pretty different. So they actually, I guess, can coexist
Oh
because
no, yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, there's plenty of games that I think like I could even see having mansions, 1 versus 2, if you really like that 1v all style.
if you really like that aspect of it, I'd say yes, yes, yeah. Um,
Also, we'll see what happens when we actually get a chance to play 3.
Yeah, also, I wasn't sure officially how to pronounce your name earlier because we read a comment of yours, Robin. So just let me know in the chat. Please sound it out for me. All right. Another game we reviewed but didn't love so much was Mariposas. Speaking of Stonemaier and Wingspan, from designer Elizabeth Hargrave. And some people were on our side, some people weren't. This was an abstract game about, I'm calling it an abstract game, but it does have a theme where you are butterflies migrating back and forth, trying to gain points as you go and breeding new generations of butterflies. Mel Wegman said, "I had high hopes after enjoying Wingspan, so expectations were high, but after watching many videos on Mariposas, I will take a pass and just go to Wikipedia if I want to learn more about life cycles of butterflies." But Forrest Dunton said, "I'm confused. You think it's not beautiful? I think it's at least as pretty as Wingspan. The board is as beautiful as any board I can remember. The butterflies are better than the cube tokens in Wingspan. The board and components looked so beautiful I pre-ordered the first day. It was an option, purely from that. Thankfully, the game is also fantastic. It's not Wingspan, it's a different game." I completely disagree with the views expressed here. I mean, it makes me glad to hear that for some, it's just one of those. That's just a purely subjective thing, I think. Where to me,
Well,
I
I
just
think
don't like the look as much.
I like the look of the board a little bit, like the colors pop, but it also is very abstract with the continent. And the one thing that bothered me most in terms of looks, I don't know if I don't remember what I even said in the view. We do so much stuff now, I forget.
It
But
was about 4 years ago, so it's fine.
the cards that you collect, the color cards,
Hmm.
like they felt so boring. They were all the same, just with a different color. Like maybe change the angle or something. Like this is the blue cycle version, and like Wingspan has like what hundreds of different birds we see. And yeah,
Yeah,
I will, however, that absolutely give in on the point about the cubes versus the butterfly meeple.
yeah, that's
I
fair. That's fair. That's true and fair. They should have been, but I also am like, well, what did you want? Little bird cubes? I feel like that would just be too much. Like
no
you,
no no no, no Jonathan, little birds Period.
Like, we sometimes talk about the overproduction thing, and some people accuse Wingspan of being overproduced, and I think that would be like too far. Like at a certain point, it's just you need to keep it simple so you can keep track of what's going on. Whereas Mariposas, there isn't as much. Like you just have those butterflies, so you can make them look a little nicer. But anyway, it's not like we said in the review. It's not a bad game. It's a good game, in fact. We just didn't love it. James asked if it's possible to use second edition Descent with the new game, and the answer is no. They are not even calling it third edition. They're considering it.
And I think they said they're not making a conversion kit either, if I recall correctly, right?
Nope. It's like not even. There's nothing. You can't. It's different new game. So that answers that question. And Robin asked, okay, in regards to, he says he got Descent Second Edition second hand, was 2 expansions for under $100. So
no, that's actually pretty good.
Pretty good. And then asked us that in regards to Mariposas, how do you guys deal with not liking, in quotes, super popular or hyped games? For instance, we did not like Wingspan at all, and our group still bash us for it. So as a YouTube channel, how does it work for you?
People don't subscribe to us, I guess.
The way they yell at us and we get sad and we feel bad. It honestly doesn't happen that often. I feel like we're usually...
The other big one was Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven was the biggest one, for sure. We are usually... I mean, we usually like a lot of games, and it's really only within the past year... I think we've started to get sent more games from publishers, and the more games you are sent, I think the more likely you are to not like them. Whereas I think this is true for many board game reviewers. When you're starting out, why would you review a game that you don't like? Because you got to probably pay for it. You got to play it.
I think it's that, but I think also it's going with new versus where we are now. Like you said, even though we didn't play Viviculture, that's 5 years of experience of games.
Yeah.
You start being like, okay, this is cool and all. Like that, I think that happens to be a lot more when I see in these games. It's not like, I think this is bad. Like, okay, there are games that I think are bad, but there are some games like, it's all right. I think this
true.
Does it better, or I've seen this 200 times.
When you're playing 5 new games a week, it's different. Because you're from if you play 1 new game a month or something like that. It's your expectations or your standards, I guess, are a little bit higher. But that's why we try to, I hopefully in our reviews with the crits and misses and laying out the explanation, you can gather if you would like it, regardless of how many games you play all the time, in addition to our own personal thoughts on it. But anyway, I snarkily make fun of all the people who leave comments about us behind their backs, but public facing, I'm very gracious and tell them I respect your opinion. So that's how I deal with it. All right. Another thing we looked at was Blinks, the Blinks system. And here's another one that we were both pretty positive about, but some people not so positive about. This is an interesting technological marvel, I'll call it, where the games revolve around these little magnetic pieces that light up and they communicate with each other. Look into it. In fact, I think they have a Kickstarter campaign that's ongoing still right now for new games.
You could, watch our video.
Watch our review if you're interested. Oh, boy. But some people are into it, some people not. Austin Hernandez said, I am totally in the camp that is interested in this. I love solving Rubik's Cubes. I know C programming. I'm an avid board gamer. But I'm super on the fence, mostly because of the price, and it seems like Roll for Crit is in agreement here. That's us. Even for the tech, it seems like there's a huge markup for what you're getting. Also, the games I've seen aren't system sellers for me, mostly just fun distractions. What I think was a huge missed opportunity here is the ability to stack the pieces for more gameplay options. I'm thinking of a game like Hive that uses the same shape, but also has certain pieces move on top of others.
I didn't think about that.
This would also enable the games
a whole
to have
new dimension.
A board as other Blinks. Maybe a new generation could have this. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And let's hold that thought. One more comment on the subject. Victor DiGiovanni said, the next open source system that produces an actual game that people want to play will be the first game system to do so. These game systems are never fun. I have Peace Pack. I'm not familiar with this one. Not a single fun game out of all of them. Interesting curiosity, but not something to be marketed as being fun in game terms. This feels that OBS disconnected and reconnected, so we might have cut out for a second, but I'm seeing us live right now on YouTube, so I'm just going to continue. I saw a little flicker.
Oh, we did cut. Yeah, I just jumped over and like cut for a little bit, but
Sorry about that, folks. Technical
maybe just go
difficulties.
back to start with the comment over again.
I'll just sum up. We were reading Victor Di Giovanni's comment about Blinks. He is not impressed by these game systems. Thinks the games are too simple, and feels like it's a $30 purchase at best. Unless you're someone who blings out their computer and desk with LED everything.
I
Everybody's
think
posting
that's
in the
fair.
chat now saying we're
I
all
mean,
here.
it's a lot of those more I like I guess simple games might be the way to say it. I mean, some of them are a lot more complicated, but there's still it's one of those things where I think it's really fun just to mess with the new technology. And like I said, you know, you came up with the maybe you could if you have the system reprogrammed, maybe you can come up with a way to make those stacking things work somehow. You know, maybe you don't need to make a new system. I know nothing about programming and that stuff, so I'm not the guy who can.
Yeah, or maybe even if it's not programmed in, maybe a way for the people at the table to be aware of it and keep that in mind. You probably could come up with something. Yeah, it's kind of like Telestones, right? I feel like a lot of the games are in that sort of area. Maybe actually even a little more complicated than Telestones. Telestones is pretty simple. Um, yeah, that's really my biggest thing with Blinks. I emphasize this more in our podcast, but it's the only reason it's hard for me to recommend is because it's $99 for a set. If it were cheaper, I would tell everybody to buy Blinks. I would be shouting it from the rooftops. If you can justify that price, then buy it. It's tons of fun, but it is a lot of money. It's just hard when, especially, and hey, it's $75 more. You can get Descent Legends of the Dark. I mean, you got to weigh those things depending on what kind of gamer you are. Anyway, I see Ajan asked how many games total can you play on Blinks. Right now, they have, um, depending, each set has 6 games in it. Some of those sets, some of the games actually are like multiple games in one. But I think on average, if you had everything together, you could play around 20 games, something like that.
20 to 30, I think,
20 to
because there's a couple
30.
other small, yeah,
Yeah,
give or
maybe some
take.
promo packs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you get at least 6 per set. Um, and Robin points out the YouTube struggling to handle the colors of your shirt.
This is actually not my shirt I'm wearing. It's glitching. YouTube is literally glitching right now.
Yeah,
If you could see my actual shirt, it'd be amazing.
it's
But
rough.
unfortunately, you can't. YouTube can't handle the majesty of my amazing shirt. So it's just showing this glitch pattern.
I like it. I'm here for it. Going back to Wingspan, talking about Wingspan, and there was an expansion for that game. We reviewed
Was
it.
there?
There was the Europa expansion, added new birds and such. And it's another one we were a little lukewarm on.
No, you mean Oceania?
Oceania. Europa was the first one. You're right.
Europe was the first one. Europa is a moon of
Wasn't
Jupiter.
it? I combined the Oceania. I added the
Yeah.
from Oceania to Europe.
I would love to see the birds out on Europa. I don't think there are, but if there are, let's get some
I
crazy
wanted it to
space
have
birds.
a fancier name than it actually does. Anyway, it was the Oceania. It was the Australia expansion that we talked about. And so, talking about Wingspan here, we reviewed it. Craig Lycan said that it's a bit of a must-buy for him as he lives in New Zealand.
Oh well, yeah.
The Nectar sounds interesting, a new mechanic, as well as seeing what impact the new boards will have. Additional end round goals and bonus cards are always cool as well. Like you, I wasn't necessarily that excited about end of game birds, though I haven't really studied them much. It seems like you are already trying quite hard to do okay with end of game stuff. That another thing to try or do to complete an end game might seem a bit much, but we'll see. From a New Zealand perspective, I haven't counted the birds up, but only seems to be maybe 8 or 9 New Zealand specific birds. 2 or 3 more might have been nicer out of the 95 or whatever total. So there's a little New Zealand perspective for you.
I mean, currently maybe they deserve it with how well they're doing there.
Yeah, they should. They're doing great over there, in a lot of respects. All right, Elena said, Elena A, I should say, got to get that A in there. Said I like how there are some critiques in this review. I think I would have been happier if it was just like European with more cards. The new board doesn't look as clean, but I like how you can discard items now to get something extra on the first column. Even with my reservations, still pre-ordering and playing with everything in, kind of hoped there would be different boards with different environments. think you said
I
that
mean,
too.
well, that's only because the digital version did that. So
Hmm.
after playing that, I'm like, look, they have all these beautiful pieces of art now. I've been spoiled.
Yeah, it was. It did spoil you a little bit. And Paul M said, "I'm a bit conflicted. I'm a bit worried adding too many elements to such an elegant game won't be as fun, but I also like many of the additions individually. I really want to try out the new player mats and birds. I'm hopeful about Nectar. I think the big concern is just how big it's getting."
Well, like we said before, I think one of the ways you can make sure it doesn't feel too bloated is one, make sure you just play with one expansion, or two, and this one requires a little bit more legwork on your part, but making custom decks, like we're going to use these birds. Like we're going
Hmm.
to take a little from your, but that does mean you have to look at those special goals because, it'll be like birds with names in them of people.
If
You're
it
going to
were,
want to try to
yeah,
still keep that 20% probably, or just take that goal out entirely.
if it weren't for that aspect of it, I would think that would be really fun to manage it in the sense of like this many birds that have this similar kind of an
I
ability.
don't think it'd be too. I think a couple of them, like the one I just mentioned, I just know I always hate that goal. Um, because I always never feel like I could spot them. I feel like, but there's a good stack of goals, especially as the game progresses. There'll be more goals, so it's easier to get ones that are just like birds looking left. I can't wait for that one. Like, so I don't think it'd be too hard to do.
You should do it and make a video saying this is the ultimate wingspan deck.
No, 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 no. I won't do the ultimate, but I'll do like the roll for crit themed,
Yeah,
and we'll update it
it's
each
like
time.
our version of the Travis Scott meal.
The what?
You don't know about the Travis Scott meal? At McDonald's, Travis Scott.
Oh, you see, I don't know people's names, but I
Uh,
remember there was a guy with a McDonald's. So
all right, you gotta be less healthy. I don't know what it is that would make you know that more.
don't
But
worry, I've had fast food recently.
oh, good, great. See, there you go. Another expansion we reviewed in the recent past, well, at least I did, was the Rise of Red Skull for Marvel Champions, the Fantasy Flight LCG. People had thoughts about this one too, of course. Daniel Kames said, "I love this expansion. Cool campaign elements. Each villain is a little different flavor, and two excellent heroes. Played through it twice on standard and had a blast. A little scared to play it on expert, but definitely want to. I don't know if I'll ever get to play an expert on Marvel Champions. I'm not.
Hey, I'm not planning to do expert in the Arkham. I'm like, I've done it. I've beaten this campaign.
Robin Rising said, "Love Spider Woman. It's not really about aspects as much as it is about churning and drawing cards at a low cost to get a lot of different aspects out to buff her every turn.
That sounds pretty cool.
That is her thing. She can have multiple aspects, and the more you play each turn of different types, they give you more powers. Super solid hero with some tweaking. Said, but neither hero in this set hits the power level of Doctor Strange. Yeah, I still haven't played with Doctor Strange. I have him, but
Is
everybody
he
says
the broken character?
I don't know if broke. I mean, I guess yes, he's supposed to be very, very strong. Like, and it almost his main cards are so good, like it doesn't matter what you put in his deck because all he worries about is his cards. Like that's how
Great.
good he is.
I'll play him.
Yeah, but it's a co-op game, so it's a little different from like a competitive game when something's
Right. No,
OP.
that's why I also don't care as much with Arkham. I admit, like when they said like we're partially also because it's too confusing. Like we're retconning these cards because I'm like I don't care. I'm not thinking that much. I don't want to have to like slide a piece of paper in.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will say at the very least, I would already have been excited to play Doctor Strange because I tend to like Magic, so I was
yeah,
already
yeah. It's
in
cool.
that sort of camp.
I think he sounds cool. I have not time to play him. Anyway, Brant Sanderson said, I asked people which aspects they think pair well with the different heroes. Said Hawkeye is best with justice for solo, and I love playing Spider Woman with leadership and protection to maximize Captain Marvel's card draw. So there's I'll think of these tips. And this person whose name I'm not sure how to say. It looks like two I's, then QR, and then a D. I don't know if those are I's, maybe they're lowercase L's. Hard to say. Says, I don't know why they couldn't include a few more components to make it standalone as well. Would it hurt? Give people a chance to access champions through this. Well, I know
What
why. It's because they
what
want to
is missing
sell.
in there?
You do not have any of the tokens, so damage counters or threat counters. You do not
Okay,
have the health trackers.
okay, because I was like, you have villains,
There
you
are
have two heroes.
there's like a standard for the encounter deck. There's some cards that always go in
Okay,
there.
because that's why I was like,
They
I mean,
want you to buy the
standard-
core set. I mean, come
right,
on.
and that inevitably that would also raise the price.
Right. And
And
for
when
people who already have the original, why are they paying for the components they already have? You know what I mean?
yeah, God knows I can think of some games when I have like triples and duplicates of stuff
I mean,
piled up.
yeah, it would be one thing if it was duplicates of the cards. People would like that, but I don't need more health counters.
I'm thinking of things like tokens and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So
Uh,
it's it's a nice idea, but I think if you like, I don't know why not just get the base set unless you just really prefer Hawkeye.
I
or
also
something.
feel like it's much more likely that you'd get the base set. Maybe it's because I'm the kind of guy who always just gets everything, but I feel like in LCG, yeah, maybe you don't want to get every pack, but I feel like you're gonna get the core. I don't know, maybe that.
Yeah. We're consumers. All right. We like to buy things. A couple big games were on Kickstarter in the last couple of months.
We talked about one already a little bit.
Which one was that?
Citadel.
Oh, right. Wait, 7 Citadel?
Yeah, someone mentioned in the comments, and we talked about it.
Where was I?
You were there. Remember, like they said.
That it was how much it made compared to HeroQuest. It's been a long stream already. Well, we're getting back to 7th Citadel right now. So here it is. One of the big new things in this was the fact that it has now dialogue and dialogue trees and stuff with NPCs. And this is the sequel to the 7th Continent, if you don't know. It's a big exploration co-op game. I used to say survival game, but this one's less about that.
The new one.
Yeah, the new one. The Ernie for SS, our friend Ernie says, 7th Citadel has the whole Mass Effect dialogue. Awesome. Does that mean I can just punch a person in the face as a dialogue option? They better not ask about my worship. I was hoping I could get a spit take from you while I read that, but it didn't.
No. I hope they have some things. And like I think we said in the interview, I hope there's something really dumb like, like here's one you can only choose if your intellect's below 4. They used to have that in the Fallout series, so your guy would go like, herder, like, I like swords.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So we can do that. Fun to do that in any RPG. We got Robin, a comment from Robin, our friend Robin Sensor here as well. Says, I did find the 7th Continent a bit too grindy personally, and ended up selling it after completing 3 curses. So it is great to get more info about what is different with 7th Citadel. So yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it sounds like this one will probably remedy that complaint.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there's a reason why. Like, what is it? Like 15 to 20 hours for a curse?
Yeah, maybe
something like that.
Maybe 10 to 15, but yes,
10 to 15. Yeah,
yes, a lot.
Yeah,
yeah, a lot. And then another big game that was on Kickstarter. Robin, are you laughing at Robin's post?
Yeah.
Says, oh no, I disagree with the great reviewers. Be kind. We were very kind to you. Don't worry.
No, I think that it was a very reasonable, and you gave it 3 curses. That's a good chunk.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Nothing wrong with selling something to get something new.
Also, Robin's earlier comment about having tons of birds in New Zealand, but their market's smaller, so they should pander to the larger market in Australia. True. But if you see the number of cards in there, I think they could have spared like 3 more birds for New Zealand.
No, they met their limit. That's what they deserve. AJ and I see asks if there will be another playthrough of 7th Continent after my first one, which failed miserably. I died so quickly. Yeah, you left it here still. It's been here forever. I'll get around to it eventually. Don't worry. If you want to see it, the more you bug me, the faster you'll get it. At Roll for Crit on Twitter. All right.
Comment on every video.
Another big game was Frostpunk, adaptation of the video game. That one I think might still be on Kickstarter now, or is ending, or maybe it just ended.
No,
recently.
it just ended.
Ended.
Yeah, I'll double check, but
it's one of the two. If I'm right, if I say it's one of the two, no matter what. Stray Geologist asked how much of this game is cooperative. How do the player roles they mention break up the decision-making among players? Is 4 players versus 1 player just breaking up the same tasks 4 ways?
If I recall, it's pretty much breaking up the tasks. Like, I think there is a overruler, like the one who breaks ties. I just can't remember it exactly. But, by the way, it is over as of now.
Okay.
And I think that was the same thing we came up with this War of Mine. You know,
Hold
I
that.
don't.
Hold that thought. Hold
Oh,
that
oh,
thought.
sorry.
No, that's good. But the next one will connect into this one. We got another comment from our friend Marcel who says, "It will be interesting to see how this game further develops. Where the video game handled the mechanical intricacies, now the intuitive nature of thematic cause and effect may take the burden off of the players' minds. But that's not the only hurdle of this game. One is graphic design. I'm sure Frostpunk is still being developed, but right now the many tracks and squares on hexes present a feeling of complexity and dryness that may scare off potential players." Another commenter, Bachir Messaori, noted that they have updated the design since what we showed off in our video, so some of this may be dated a little bit. But said Frostpunk tackles a bitter survival theme in a cold, harsh setting, which, like this War of Mine, might deter players as well. This can be overcome by an art style that's stylistic and engaging. Awaken Realms is good at flipping dystopic themes around into intriguing settings, so it remains to be seen if they can pull this off as well. Glass Cannon Unplugged, which is the company doing Frostpunk. So I wanted to tie that in because I wanted to like all of this into how Frostpunk compares to this War of Mine, because I think they both have a similar thing where they're so close to that video game
Hmm.
that which is a solo experience that maybe as a multiplayer experience and having to handle everything and look at the art and stuff up close, maybe I can see why for some people it doesn't translate as well to the board game format.
I will say definitely with this War of Mine, it was a little harder to say it's Frostpunk because one, we're seeing a prototype. Two, we did it over a computer.
Right.
But with two players, having that around the table, like if we were to play, I think this War of Mine, like just on your computer, and I was just sitting next to you, I think that'd feel more like the I'm the brother on the couch who can't hold a
Yes,
controller. Like
very
I
much.
felt like we were actually counseling, and I don't know, something about it on the table and both of us having equal share, I guess, in essence, of the world
Hmm.
of moving pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
Once again, though, I don't know how much we would like that if we get hit like 3 or 4. This is one of those games where
Oh,
I'm like, I
players.
just
Yeah.
want to play with Jonathan, and that would be great.
Which way are you? I don't know. Yeah.
I am everywhere.
Yeah. For me, it works pretty well as well. But I do feel there's almost a point where, because you're adapting it so closely, for people who are fans of the video game, you might also almost come to this and say, why would I? The video game feels like almost the evolution of the board game rather than the other way around.
Right. And I don't know if I have a direct argument to that, to be
It
honest.
really comes down to, well, I just like moving stuff around with my hands. I think that honestly, that's the thing. For me, I think
Well,
it's worth
I
that
think
sacrifice.
I think it's that, and at least in the two player, maybe you could do 3 and 4, maybe if you have, I think, the right group. I just don't think we do. But there's something really fun, even like we joke about it, but actually having this conversation like with Frostpunk would be like, do we have the children go to work or something?
Yeah.
Like I think, like yeah, we're laughing at it, but like even in like this War Mind, when it's not an obvious like morality issue kind of thing, I think it was interesting to discuss like, should we go for this? Should we give medicine to this person? You know,
Yeah.
I like that kind of, and it's not too overt or too like, I think too much in pushing you out of your safe space either. I guess for lack of a better, like these are dark themes in both of these games, but I mean I don't know how far Frostpunk goes, but I can think of this could go a lot
They're
worse.
both pretty dark, I'd say. Yeah, yeah. And Prince Gastronome, I just gotta say, I had a comment which was along the same lines, and said he's sunk dozens of hours into the video game, watched the whole playthrough. They did everything they could to recreate the single experience of the video game, meaning you have to do all the background work. Uh, when the video game responds to your choices, I could just play the game for that. And he said it's this War of Mine all over again. And in his experience, people haven't enjoyed that game. And again, I think it's just uh, it's for people who really like handling stuff physically. I really think that's what it boils down to. But I like
Also,
them.
people who don't like the results so they can backtrack without the game force saving.
Oh, that's good too. That's true too. Yeah.
Cheating.
There's
Roll
a
for crit
different
approved.
thing about it. And then Elias Hartmark has some tips. Said for the video game, always start first with child labor, and after that sawdust. I always do this, and I have never lost a game. The people can deal with the morality of it after it has stopped being minus 70 degrees Celsius. So, little tip for you to try if you play Frostpunk. Don't know if that'll work in the board game or not. Not guaranteed. But looking forward to that one. Come On's in the news a little bit too. Speaking of Kickstarter, we talked about how they delayed their game Trudvang Legends, which was a big deal.
Right.
And Vault Boy pointed out that Awaken Realms also delayed one of their games on Kickstarter, which was The Edge Dawnfall, to improve gameplay, and said when you compare the gameplay that was demonstrated to what it ended up being, it's significantly better. The demo gameplay was flat enough. I remember thinking I need to cancel my pledge, but he forgot, didn't cancel, went through with it, and was pleased with what they changed. Did cancel his pledge for Trudvang, however, but said, I'm glad that Come On recognized the issues and are working to correct them. It's a shame these games in general haven't had a few more passes before being pitched to backers. Is a little weird. And I really like this name. Senile Dad also commented. Said, didn't back. I know it sucks, but I respect Come On for recognizing an issue. Trying to solve a problem and release a good game. Granted, maybe they should have playtested a little more before going to Kickstarter. Better to release a good game late than a bad one. It is very strange. I mean, we talked about it enough, I think, in the video, but yeah, it's weird that they were this far along, seemingly, and just all of a sudden realized, this isn't fun. It's not that fun. Like, don't you have teams of people that are? I mean, it's a whole thing. I'm not a game designer, but
Well, it could be one of those things where because you helped design it, like you're
too
like
close to it.
Like I don't think of it as much examples I can think of are fun, but I feel like sometimes people are like, no, or the designer's like, yeah, this game is balanced and fair, but because you played it so many times, it's easy. Meanwhile, like you're gonna go into the game and get like swapped around, and you have no idea how to get past the first boss or something. And
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, balance. Yeah, that's definitely another.
but that, like I said, that's very different from fun.
Right.
Like, this was not a difficulty issue, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that may have been baked into it, but it wasn't the core thing they talked about. Come On also announced a new game that may or may not get delayed at some point, which was The Last of Us, the board game. Can't remember. I assume it's going to Kickstarter because most of their games do with minis, but I don't know if they announced that for sure or not. People had different reactions to it. I still don't think we know what it's going to be. Kareem Thalgard said, Come On did an excellent job producing and delivering Night of the Living Dead, a zombicide game, so I have hope for them delivering a reasonably smooth product based on The Last of Us. I guess one zombie thing to another, licensed product to another. Let's see. Repeat After Meme said, I can see The Last of Us being a co-op scenario game. Come On seems to love producing zombie games, so yeah. So there's that. And then, look, we got Marcel again here said, Last of Us could be fantastic if it had the emotional impact of This War of Mine. Everything comes together. Or Fog of Love. These two games have spectacular theme mechanical synergies that tap into the human condition beautifully. However, it being from Come On, between the only two Come On games I ever backed, Marvel United had a nasty backer retail marketing campaign, and Trudvang had a 1-year delay, leaving me the impression that they're rushing their game releases. So
yeah,
not everybody happy with them.
I mean, Last of Us, especially with part 2, as polarizing as it is, I think a lot of people would agree their idea was the zombies aren't the forefront. This isn't supposed to be, I'm a zombie shooter.
Which, to be fair, is there any media anymore that is? I feel like that's the message of every zombie story now.
Yeah, everyone wants to have like this deep, but I guess they do a much more not delicate.
It's a complex emotional
right
game.
Is the and like if they were able to capture any part of that somehow, I think would be I would be very impressed. I think that'd be
Scythe Noir is not optimistic either here.
Yeah. I mean that I was just gonna say maybe that's the reason why also they didn't do Last of Us Zombicide.
Right. Oh yeah, maybe that
Because
wouldn't
they
go over
actually
so
are going to
well.
try.
Maybe. Scythe Noir's this comment says, I'm not sure if they have the ability to make something like this War of Mine that captures the emotional impact of the game. Feels like a licensed money grab, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a. You have minis.
No,
Get
I'm
from point A
saying
to
that's
point
what you
B.
should do. I'm not saying I think that's the
Yeah,
likely
yeah, no, I
result.
know.
That's why I said I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Also, currently in the chat, I love Robin pointing out one that they've reached the bird quota apparently,
Mm.
and two, he agrees. Is it cheating if it makes the game fun? You see, that's what I tell you, Jonathan. So that's why you need to let me read the answers to the escape rooms
I think
beforehand.
the answer is yes, though. I think the answer is still yes.
Ernie also seems to be challenging you to make it to the 6th tile card this time.
In the seventh
Yeah,
continent. Yeah, we'll
you
see.
got to make it to 7.
Well, oh right, 7 for 7, and then I stop no matter what. That's the end of the video.
Don't you know that's how you go through every game? All of them end in 7 tiles. The rest of
Yeah,
the card is just fluff.
I would hope so. Let's talk about fictional games. We've talked enough about games that are real. Let's talk about some games that aren't real.
Okay.
We had a whole video discussing what we thought about the adaptation of games from movies or books or video games into a playable format, and what the success ratio has been of that in the past, and whether or not we like the idea of it. Got a comment here from AJN who says, I remember in some Final Fantasy games, there would be mini games in them that players can play. I remember Final Fantasy VIII had a card game that a player could challenge NPCs in. And I see you've got Falcon Ash K said it was called Triple Triad. Some folks ran around the game to collect all the cards for the full set. I think one or two other people mentioned Triple Triad as well as another game that we did not point out. No, I have not played most of the Final Fantasy series, so
Yeah.
I know about Blitzball, but that's not a tabletop game.
I've only played 1, 4, and 1, 4, and 5. I think the numbers. I don't know. I don't know. I know some of them are different numbers depending on the English versus Japanese, and I'm not worthy and skilled enough to remember which is which.
I think that's only like 4 and 6, or like switched, or
I
three,
thought it was
or
like
3 and
was the
6.
one that's yeah.
But if you
Oh
go,
no, I played the one with the clown as the like one of the enemies, and the one where you're the Dark Knight and become a paladin. Oh, and the original.
you've played the original Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
like when it came out.
No, like it was a Game Boy version.
Was it a remake?
Yeah, but like it didn't have any named characters. It's just Black Mage.
Right,
And
right. It wasn't. Was it Legends, or is
I
it a different thing?
don't recall.
All
I
right.
think it was like a 1-2 pack kind of
Oh,
thing.
interesting. Anyway, original Game Boy.
No, I think Game Boy Advance. I think it was Game Boy Advance.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right. Anyway, so that's cool. There's one. I also got a comment here from Robin, who's in the chat right now, telling us he liked the idea for this video, which he commented on, so he must have really liked it. Said, fascinating subject of discussion. Said, my girlfriend is writing a fantasy novel right now, and we worked together on a game idea to integrate in it, and you're 100% right. This is just to sound cool and would be unplayable in real life. Oh, you know what I just thought of another one that I didn't say in that video.
All right, what is it?
I wonder if I can't remember if you've also read this series or not. There's a book series when we were kids called The Seventh Tower.
No, I did not. Also, bold of you to assume I read.
I think one of our other friends, because I wonder if maybe if I showed it to you, if you would remember or no, if you're just positive that you haven't read that. But
It does not sound familiar.
I loved this. It's written by Garth Nix. He also did Sabriel and a bunch of other.
Is this a series or a one?
There were like 7 books. So yeah.
Okay, that's why I feel like if it was a series, I would remember it a little better usually.
But it was like a young adult, like kids sci-fi, maybe not sci-fi, fantasy. But they had a game that was basically Yu-Gi-Oh style, kind of like a card game where when you put a card down, like the creature would actually pop up or something like that. And man, I thought that sounded cool. I wish I remember what it was called.
That's why Yu-Gi-Oh's. Everyone loved Yu-Gi-Oh. We all want that.
Now I gotta look
That's
this
why,
up.
also that VR game.
Beast. It was called Beast Maker. That's what it was called in that book.
What's the VR game?
Dragonfront.
Dragonfront. Like
VR.
everyone, you want that ability to be like, look, behold, woof.
Yeah, let's see. What are some other ones that people mentioned? Refresh Damon said, I actually like games like Sabacc from Star Wars and Three Dragon Ante from D&D to actually play in the respective RPG sessions, going back to what we said earlier.
Oh yeah, I think that helps a lot.
It's fun to have the PCs sit around in a cantina or an inn and play the real game with in-character stakes. Of course, some video games have actually playable games and games embedded in them that I enjoyed, like Triple Triad from FF8 or Gwent from Witcher 3, that I thought might be fun to get a real paper adaptation. I guess they are actual. If they are actual working mini games, would you say they are fictional? That's a question of semantics.
Uh, I guess because it's not. It's sort of like it is because
We should
I
call
would
them
consider
other
fiction.
universe games.
Yeah, I guess mostly because it's like if I were to say in that world you want to play Sabacc, no one's like I love that mini game. I guess it'd be
Yeah, fair enough. More Evan Bly said someone should publish Chardy McDennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. No, they should not.
I don't know that, and the way you said that made me very worried. Also,
It's
from what I know from Always Sunny, it
it's
could
a
end with someone being hurt
it's a game.
badly.
Yes, it's a game that involves pain and possible injury. I'm surprised there isn't. They didn't make just like a lighter drinking game or something to market of that, but I guess even they thought better of it.
What's the game called?
Chardy McDennis. It's a combination of their names.
No, I just mentioned Charlie McDennis. Light, no injuries
Right,
required.
right. Yeah, they don't want the lawsuits from that as the problem. Stephen Barry said Tack from Patrick Rothfuss's King Killer Chronicles. Isn't Tack an actual board game? Like a real board game? Yeah, is that from a? Oh, it is. So this is. I had no idea. There's a game you can play called Tack, and it is inspired by a game from this book series. Didn't know. Had no idea. So there you go. Learning new things. And Falcon Ash K mentioned a few more that we didn't mention, including Gwent, which I'm surprised we forgot to say Gwent.
Wow.
Mystic Warlords of Kaa, which is from the Big Bang Theory. That's sorry, not one that I'm gonna be familiar with. But he says this was made by Direwolf Digital. So there's another one for you, another example. But lots of fun stuff, lots of fun ideas for fake games. Let's see. AJN asked if is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dice Masters game a real game? Is that the name of it? Use Yu-Gi-Oh! Dice Monster?
There was like a battle with a guy with dice, and like when you summoned them, the dice would unflip, and you'd have to decide how it folds out. And I think they did try that, but it was like, well, it's sort of like one of those things where they did once and it wasn't popular enough, so they're like, just focus on the cards.
Yeah, and Ernie is remembering the Eye of Judgment for PS3, which
I remember that.
you would play a card and the camera would see it and like
Try to see it, yeah.
create the, which is a cool idea. Space Marine Hunter asks what we think about Warhammer 40K, and the answer to that question is, well, I don't know. I'll answer for myself. I mean, I'm just not. We're not miniatures gamers, so I have outside of little bits here and there of the lore and stuff. I know nothing about Warhammer.
I know a little bit more, partially because one of my friends is trying to get into it. So he always sends me pictures and tells me things about the army he's looking into. And I'm just waiting for him to get 2 armies and have him teach me.
Yeah,
I thought that would be the easier path since I also can't paint.
I'm sure I could have some fun with it, but if X-Wing wasn't the game to get me into miniatures, I just don't think I like miniatures games enough to really get into them. It's that style of like skirmish. I need it to be more rulesified. I need a more contained setting, and not as many things to collect. But
I know that he was talking about trying to help someone build a army based on the crazy chaos demon
from
that it's like
Warhammer?
from Warhammer. That's like I forget her name, but she's like pink. She is like pink and is all about corruption through like lust. I think would be probably the best adjective for this person. Except there aren't space marines for them, so you have to customly make them or something.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I have no idea what you're talking about. And Robin also asked if we played Space Hulk, Death Angel, which is in the Warhammer universe. No, I haven't played Space Hulk, just the board game too. It's like everybody talks about that, but it's another one of those. There's like a few holes in our collection from early years that.
That's it.
Flinch Slinch is the name. Space Marine
I
Hunter
think that
says.
that seems like
Slinch. Yeah, I mean that's a name that rolls right off the tongue. All right, we
look,
got
they're
a
chaos gods. Are we supposed to be able to pronounce those
few
names?
comments left. We'll wrap up. So if you're watching live in the chat right now, 5 or 10 minutes. Prepare your final questions if you have any before we go, as we get through these last few random comments here. Gwendolyn Neuhauser said, I'd love to see you guys do a segment on the Prosperity Kickstarter. Cute little tea-themed game put out by Mentha Designs. I did see this one. We didn't choose it as a pick, but I did see this, and I do love the concept of making tea and brewing tea as a game mechanic and a game theme. I think that's a lot of
Sounds really
fun.
familiar.
There might be another game that
Yeah.
does it too.
Or maybe I remember looking at it and
That
just
too, yeah.
you know.
And also said, love your Cthulhu Absinthe T-shirt that you were wearing in that video.
Thank Jonathan for that one.
I got that for you. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
our
one of
best
my
shirts
favorites.
we've got for each other.
I will say, by the way, if you do like the idea of that tea game and just that the theme of it, I definitely suggest you check out the Restoration Games Dinosaur Tea Time game. I think that
Dinosaur
is
Tea Party.
Tea Party. Sorry, if you wanted it, it has a fun little theme with the tea, but also if you're looking for a game of can you guess who, but actually fun that isn't just like Candyland, take a look at that one.
There you go. Heath Washburn said, check out Roll in One on Kickstarter. Cute little golf game with custom dice. The kind of project I feel like genuinely needs Kickstarter. I didn't see this one, but I do love, that sounds like a great concept, and I love the pun name. And
Pun name will get you far here.
I assume like different dice are different for like different types of golf clubs. Sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Sort of like how Formula D, it was the different gears for the dice.
Yeah, as long as someone doesn't go too slow.
No. I just want to get through one time if I can say the words Formula D without hearing about your traumatic flashback of exploding, which was like 8 years ago now. All right, anyway, more comments. Oliver Millen said, is talking about Root. We reviewed the Root digital game. Said, I have owned the board game of Root for a year, but was too intimidated to play it based on what I'd heard. Got this digital version, and it's really well done. Learned to play using the tutorials, and now I have confidence to play the physical game. Cats are easiest to play, and then the Eries. Woodland Alliance and Vagabond hurt my brain a bit more, so I'll need to keep practicing with those, but really enjoying it so far. So I thought that was cool to hear about people who actually, which makes sense that, being able to, one of the best things about digital board games is the fact that you can't do anything illegal because they won't let you. So it teaches you a little bit.
Doing things illegal. It takes care of a lot of the cleanup. So it's not even like you would do it illegally. It's just, it's just, all right, end of turn, new turn.
Sure, that's part of it. But just knowing, like, sometimes there are some games where it's like, I forget how I move this piece. It can go there, it can go there, can it go here?
Right.
Online, it's just,
oh no,
this will show you. This is where it
goes.
Yeah,
like when you
chess,
do.
That's the best example.
No, well, yeah, I was gonna bring up the Nintendo game. 50 worldwide
games, yeah.
Clubhouse games. It's always great to be like, all right, where can these pieces go? Especially some of the Japanese games where I can't read the actual name on the piece and be like, this one can move here, here, and here. I'm like, great. I know every place it can hit.
Right. Yeah. It's great. It's a good thing. We also talked about, they announced the new Arkham Horror video game. Mother's Embrace, which started out its life as a Mansions of Madness game. Ryan McLeod says he thinks the name change might be because Fantasy Flight considers the Mansions of Madness line finished, for now at least, and the video game could help them promote Arkham Horror, which has games that are still ongoing. The last Mansions expansion came out a year ago this weekend, with nothing else announced. I think a lot of us were holding our breath for an announcement during Arkham Knights, but looking at the schedule, there's seemingly no allocation for this. This is pure speculation, but it does sound like maybe Mansions is on the back burner. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't even. Same thing with Eldritch. I think is finished too.
I can't even Eldritch. I feel like it was ages ago.
I mean, if they were gonna do something, I feel like they would have said something during announced. I think all they were like announced during this thing was like cooking recipes, which I'd be fine with. I just like an actual book of that, please.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I don't know why they don't just throw out some digital stuff once in a while if they don't want to.
Yeah, that's what I think would be the smart thing to do with Mansions in particular. I mean, that's what I keep saying with the app. And plus, like I said, I've said time and time again with I think both the review, my list. There's that Valkyrie system,
Right,
you
right.
know.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. And we also reviewed Small World of Warcraft.
Mhm.
Roman asked what Warcraft board game is generally considered to be the best. I have only played World of Warcraft, the adventure game from 2008, which no one at the table really enjoyed, and we never went back to it. Could you make a video ranking Warcraft board games? Looks like no one has done it yet. I have no idea how many Warcraft board games exist, and I've never played any of them, so I
Maybe
can't.
Warcraft Risk.
Oh yeah, there's one Warcraft Risk. So I can't answer this question right now, but maybe at some point, if people want
I
it, we could
think I
research
wonder
it.
how well loved the card game was.
The trading
I know it
card game.
ended, but yeah.
Yeah, I do not know. I do not know. I wonder as well. But maybe people who are watching or in the comments can let us know. What do you think is the best Warcraft board game that's out there? And finally, a few questions I see in our chat to finish us off. Uh,
Hmm.
Ernie says Chai was a team making game. Maybe you're thinking of that. That
Mm.
sounds familiar to me too. Um, Robin says Jonathan is an experienced GM, right? Yeah, well, technically, yes, I am experienced. um, I don't know what that means, but will you ever consider running a role playing campaign with your viewers since everybody is stuck at home? That would be awesome. Well, uh, we are thinking about ways we can make role playing more frequent and allowing viewers to participate in it in different ways. That's a roundabout way of answering your question. I don't know the logistics of playing one like with people is kind of hard, and this may be something that is specifically geared towards Patreon subscribers. So uh, keep that in mind. But it's a good idea, and it's something that you may see us do something we're in the realm of in the future. We've been talking about that and trying to get the kinks worked out. So that answers that question. And then Ernie said, "Will you tell us when the Awaken Realms space game launches on GameFound? I can't find the notification page anywhere." Maybe, sure. I'll make a note. I don't know what this is even in reference to, but I guess Awaken Realms is launching some kind of a space game. And sure, I'll try to keep you aware of that, Ernie.
Wait,
Uh,
wait, did they mean Nemesis?
I,
Isn't that Awaken Realms?
yeah,
Is that
they've got
space?
at least one space game. I assumed it was a new one. Is there a new one they're working
Oh,
on?
there is. Yeah, I think they like came with the art book. I think of Tainted Grail. I think I see it right over there. It's just a little
There's a
down
preview
beyond
for
reach.
it. And Robin wants to know if I can be more cryptic about my answer to the
Oh, he
RPG
can.
question. Yeah, let's just say maybe sort of something. And Ernie Googled it. He says it's ISS Vanguard. Or is he saying it is Vanguard and that was a typo of two S's? I'm not sure. Vanguard. Vanguard, I'm going to assume, is the name of this new game. So, before we close out our Meeple Gallery, it's been a lot of fun, as always, talking to everybody, talking to the folks at home. We have to say that we are going to be doing another stream. Look forward to it. Oh, it is ISS Vanguard. Ernie confirms. Okay. Anyway, back on track. We are doing another stream this Saturday, November 7th, 2020. It is, what is it? Extra Life.
That is correct.
So you got to tune in for that. We're going to start playing games at noon. We'll have an announcement of
Noon
this Eastern
Standard
time. We'll have an announcement for this on Twitter and everything else after the fact. So if you're one of the people who aren't watching this live right now, well, you're not hearing me say this, but you'll find out some other way. But we will be not only playing games for charity and support of Children's Miracle Network hospitals throughout all of the day and well into the night. We will also be giving away bundles of games. Every
That's
2
pretty cool.
hours, we're going to give away a different bundle of game. Each one has a different sort of a theme. You'll have to donate at least $1 for the charity, and it will randomly pick somebody who is donated and who is watching in the chat to win one of these bundles every 2 hours. So if you go to right now our website, rollforcrit.com/extralife, you can find all the details and stay tuned for more, and that will be live right after this video. Not live, the the placeholder link will be live on our
Mhm.
YouTube channel, so you can bookmark it, be ready for it on this Saturday.
We're doing Extra Life for the entire week. We just started. No sleep for
Oh
7
God,
days.
if only. That'd be very scary. It will probably be pared down compared to our usual 24-hour streams because it will, I think, be
Less people?
mostly just us, and it's going to be remote. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting, but I think still very fun. And hopefully you guys will join us and we'll chat with you all. Adrian asked about Resident Evil 3. We'll get there. I still got to go through now scenario B of Resident Evil 2.
Will there be any Resident Evil during the stream?
Maybe? I don't know. Maybe the answer is maybe. We'll see.
Mhm.
I might try to keep it strictly board games for it, but it's possible. There could be something that happens. We'll see. We'll see exactly what goes on. We'll have a
Mhm.
ton of things prepared, of course. It'll be a lot of fun. But thanks for watching. If you had any more responses to anything that we said that we didn't have time to get to, of course, you can comment on this video and let us know what you think about our awesome background.
Yeah, and of course, like I keep plugging, we have merch now, and in particular, if you actually already bought any and bought one of the shirts, send us a picture. We'd love to share it on social media.
There you go. Check it out. That's rollforcrit.com /merch. You can find all that. And we got shirts. We got hat. No, there's no hat. Sorry. We
No,
got. You can wear a
masks.
shirt as a hat. You can wear a
Yeah,
mask on
I
your
guess
head.
we got masks, mugs.
You can wear a mug as a hat too. Everything's
Mhm.
a hat as far as I'm concerned. Go check it out. And also, we want to say, of course, thank you to our patrons on Patreon who are so kind as to give us money. These are just our $5 patrons that you're seeing right here, but you can sign up for just $1 a month, and you get a lot of cool stuff as thanks to that. And then you can also follow us elsewhere on the web if you want to keep up with exactly what we're doing and when we're doing it. More fun stuff just like this. Well, okay, I guess that's it.
I
Bye.
think that is. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan also.
I'm also Will.
One more high five to close it out.
All right. Oh God. Hold on. Come on. Come on.
Something uncomfortable about
Uh,
this.
oh God. I'm in your hand.
Yeah, that's it. We're done. Thanks, guys. Good
Yeah.
night. It's over. Close it.